Welcome to another episode of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff, and thanks for listening and thanks for subscribing. And if you enjoy us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, don't forget to like, share, leave a review. We'd really appreciate it. First, Mal, I got to give a shout out to the Blue Jays for their pregame moment of silence for victims of the Minnesota church shooting. It's easy to forget real world still goes on despite the fact that we're all in a life sandbox. But I have Americans that ask, and the Twins really appreciate it. I saw that on social media, how they acknowledged the moment of silence and appreciate it. I have American friends that ask, is Canada safe for us to visit? And I tell them that Canada is like the Mother Teresa of world countries, caring, compassionate, willing to help others, almost before it helps itself, but just don't dig too deep into our history.
I think that applies to most people, Griff.
I think
even on a personal level, you know what I mean?
And I say, yes, we are safe to visit. And if you can leave a bottle of bourbon or California wine on the way out, we would really appreciate it.
Oh, I'd really like that right about now. Yeah. Very good. It's nice to see. The Jays have always done a nice job, and kind of that. I think that's filters down from Marnie Starkman. I know she's probably moved on from direct contact with game entertainment this time, but marketing.
I think she still has a strong hand in all of that stuff.
Sure, and that's a direct result of what she's always done over the years. So my hat tip goes to them for doing the right thing in that moment. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, and that's in the genes, because Howie Starkman was like that. Howie would make sure that everything was taken care of in that regard to make the Blue Jays and to make everything about Canada look good.
And it is a responsibility, right? You're the only Canadian team, so I think it comes with a little greater responsibility. It gets noticed, so yeah, it is important to do that. And again, nice job.
Yeah, and we'll start now on Blue Jays stuff. We're recording the morning of the first game of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Big series.
And that's the best team in the American League against the best team in the National League. It's not necessarily going to end that way.
Right.
But I think the Brewers are going to hang on. There's not a lot of people threatening them. The Dodgers are getting back together, but we'll talk about all that later. I just want to begin by talking about, and we've talked about it before, big moments in the 2025 season for the Blue Jays. And I just added one. We have talked about two before. It begins with Bo Bichette's pinch hit home run in Texas to prevent the Jays in May from going 3 games under 500. All of a sudden, they're 1 game under 500. And now, as we record, they're 22 games over 500. So that was a key moment at the time. And then the second one, we talked about it when Mason Fluharty struck out Ohtani in LA to prevent a sweep by the Dodgers, and then got the ground ball from Mookie Betts.
Right.
And that was moment number 2. And for me, and I think it was very significant. I want to hear your opinion on it, was the double off the top of the fence by Addison Barger that didn't prevent a sweep, didn't sweep, but gave the Blue Jays a 2-1 series win over the Twins, a team that had divested itself of as much talent as they could. And so that should have been a sweep. When it had a chance to lose 2-1 in that final game, it would have been disastrous in my mind to the psyche, with both the Red Sox and Yankees winning the same night. What's your thought? Does that add to the list of top moments?
I think it certainly can. And let's be honest, the Jays haven't been playing their best baseball. They kind of been spinning their wheels a little bit, even against some lesser opponents, right? So that would have been losing a series to the Twins when you come home as well. Doubt creeps in pretty quick sometimes, especially with this isn't a veteran team that's been there, done that either, right? So you you could see how that could maybe affect you more. And even more importantly, the guy who did it. Barger's been on a tailspin, and um, say what you will, it's been a struggle for him. So for him to come through in a big moment, um, I think that certainly was welcome sight. They've had trouble with the bullpen. They were giving up runs. It looked like another after the game beforehand, uh, how that went down. The snowball effect was certainly ready to roll. So I think it was a big moment. It certainly at that time. So let's see if it continues.
Yeah, and you speak about Barger struggling lately. And to me, the month of September in Major League Baseball is a completely different animal, especially if you have a veteran team competing against a team of youngsters who really don't have that extra month experience. A lot of them have been in the minor leagues, which used to
Yeah.
end on September 1st.
Right.
And if they weren't called up, they were going home or they were going to the complex. But that is so if you see players for a certain team slumping in September, it may not be because they're feeling the pressure. It may be because they haven't been there before. Do you feel that gives in any way, especially the Blue Jays rotation, which we'll get into later, but a veteran group like that, an advantage over a team like, say, the Mariners with 4 out of their 5 guys being youngsters? Not the
That's a
Mariners
tough
in
one.
particular, but because they've been through the grind before. But say the Brewers then.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's the fine balance between veteran savvy and age catching up to you, right? I like it. Actually, I would say, yeah, I do think they have an advantage because these guys, other than Max Scherzer, they're not exactly over the hill, long in the tooth, hanging on by a thread. So yeah, I think it does. I think that veteran experience should come in handy, especially guys like Gosman. Um, Bassett should be well primed to pitch well right now. I mean, Barrios, these guys have all been there and handled these moments to an extent. So, and their stuff is as good as ever, to be honest with you. I mean, we could talk about Barrios and rest and things like that, but yeah, it should be an advantage for these guys. It really should be because they won't be phased by the moment coming down the stretch. That's for sure.
Yeah, you talked about not having played well that lately. Here's some numbers. The last 30 games, the Jays are 16-14. So that was the
Yeah.
first time they reached to 20 games above 500. And I talk about plateaus and reaching a plateau. And over 162 game season, you cannot continually just have that arc go upward. You need to reach a plateau, make sure that you maintain that, make sure you don't dip down too much. Because then that is a warning sign. But if you can maintain, which the Jays have done, they've gone from 20 above to 22 above. Now they just need to put on another drive to reach the next plateau, which would give them maybe 94, 95 wins over the course of the season. And that would probably ensure that they finish first and have a first round bye. But if they continue to, it's not spinning the wheels, but if they continue to play 500 the rest of the way, it might be difficult to maintain the division. Somebody's going to get hot, either the Red Sox or
Well,
Yankees.
they're both kind of getting hot right now, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
So,
And they play each other 3 more times. So, and the Jays play each of them 3 times. So, again, it's 100% in their own hands.
yes.
Their fate, and that's. A lot of times you go into September and you go, well, if we win this many and they lose that, but you don't even need to look at that with this situation with the Jays. I mean, they have a, 3.5 game lead as we speak, and then a
Yeah.
4 game lead, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you go to games above 500, it does look more imposing to overcome for the teams that are trailing.
Just don't tell the 87 Jays that. That's
Yeah, right. When I was in Montreal and we were we were jealous of the Jays situation at that point because we had gone through a 6-year stretch of mediocrity in Montreal. So when they lost all those games, I put in the game notes that it was the second most famous group of 7 in Canadian history, meaning their 7 straight losses.
That's pretty good.
I was a little sarcastic back then, and luckily I've evolved and changed. So
that's pretty good.
So for them, and I point all the time to 90 wins as a goal. I've been pointing to that for a month and a half.
That usually gets you in.
And now it comes down to the fact that, and these are the numbers as we speak on the morning of the Brewers series. If they go 12-16, if the Jays go 12-16, they'll end with 90 wins. To miss the playoffs, they would need Boston and the Yanks to both pass, and the second place team out west would have to pass them.
Right.
And one of the Royals, Guardians, one of the Royal Guardians and Rangers, which includes the second place team out west. So, I mean, it's not
unlikely.
Yeah. So, but they really need to win one of the top 2 spots as a division winner so that they can avoid that first round.
That's the key. Yes.
Also, the Jays rotation. The Jays rotation, finally, John Schneider and Pete Walker. I don't know how many text messages I had to send them to understand.
You wore them down, Griff. You wore them
down. And they have gone with giving Jose Barrios 8 days between starts so that they could group Bieber, Gausman, and Scherzer together for this Brewers series, which will be a real indicator of where they would stand in the postseason. Because to me, in whatever order, not necessarily in that order, but that would be the trio that would open a 7-game series if they were lucky enough to escape the first round. So that would be the trio. And that's the same threesome. Bieber, Gausman, Barrios is going to pitch at Yankee Stadium.
Scherzer, so, not Barrios. Yeah.
Oh, Scherzer, yeah.
Yep.
That are going to pitch at Yankee Stadium. So 2 important series, the 2 most important series remaining on the schedule, except for the Red Sox. But yeah, those are the indicators. And if they can win 2 out of 3, it's a good sign moving forward that this team is really going to be competitive in October. So
yeah, you want to find out, you want to measure up your best against their best, right? This is why you do it. So I give them credit for finally listening to you, Griff.
Yeah, I give them credit too. I sent them a note and said, "Boys, it's about time."
I'm sure that was well received.
Barrios pitching on his 8th day for his next time out. It hasn't been announced, but that's what I sent them, so that's what they're going to do. He has done that 48 times in his career, pitched with more than six plus days of rest. So he's done that before. I mean, we've both said how over 7 years, it's amazing that he's never missed a start. This is not missing a start. This is just more days of rest between starts. And he's still going to get to 32 starts. I think that this is going to do a tremendous amount of good for Barrios. He's never really been able to take that extra day deep breath and come back at it with his good stuff. And I don't know what you think about that, but that's my view of it right now.
Well, and we've talked about it. He's looked like he's needed a rest. His stuff wasn't as sharp, his velo was down. He looked a little gassed. So this cannot hurt him on any level. The extra rest. I mean, even if he comes back and doesn't pitch well, it's not going to be because he got extra rest. You know what I mean? This is just a smart move, just to kind of tee him up for a stretch run in September. It's common sense at this point in time. And like we said, I mean, you've got these guys. At some point, I think teams are going to move to a 6-man rotation just all across baseball. But here you just kind of, you're starting to line your playoff roster rotation up. You're lining it up for the two big series, and now you can give the guy who looks like he needs more rest than anybody else a couple extra days. So, I'm kind of intrigued to see how he comes back. But you would expect it's going to be a little bit fresher and stronger, which is smart move at this point. Smart.
Yeah, and it's not like he's never done it before. 48 times in his career, he's pitched on 6+. But I was annoyed by the controversy around having Eric Lauer pitching on his 11th day. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? This guy has not done anything to merit, oh, I got to pitch on my 5th day. In fact, I looked in, most of the time he's pitching on his 6th day. It's not like he's had 3 or 4 starts this year on his 5th day. And like, just because he had a bad outing, don't blame it on the extra rest. That's my view, because you take the ball, you prepare the best you can, and you go out and you give them your best. But don't blame it on it took a while to get my rhythm and I gave up 4 bombs. What's your view on that? I mean, I was annoyed with all that.
Hey, man, you're trying to win a World Series at this point. Eric Lauer has been unbelievably good this year. He's been the surprise of the team, but there is little in his history to suggest, that this isn't more than the outlier. And I'm not saying he hasn't earned every opportunity, and he will be a big part of this team coming down the stretch. But he's the guy that's going to have to find his way into the rotation where it fits. So everybody else, the big horses, get the ball when they need to get the ball. So that's what you do at this time of year. You're Eric Lauer. You do not have the resume of these guys, and you're gonna have to, to turn that frown upside down, so to speak, and
Yeah.
make sure when you get the ball, you pitch well, and there's no excuses. He hasn't looked the same for a little while. Let's be honest.
I 100% agree with that.
And I'm not surprised. Like, even the games he's because of the way the game has gone, nobody's really talked about his performance, right? It's been less than what it's been all year for a little while now. So that's just, sorry. He's done a phenomenal job, and he's earned every right to earn a rotation spot next year, whether it's here or somewhere else. But he hasn't earned anything more than that at this point. So he's got to find his way. Just take the ball when you get it and pitch well. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask him to point to who he shouldn't be taking the place of, would it be Bieber? Is he upset that Bieber joined the team? I think the team goal is more important than Eric Lauer's starting every 5th day. In fact, the only other time this season that Lauer started on that many days, it's not quite, it was his 10th day. He started on his 10th day at San Francisco, pitched 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts.
Probably wasn't complaining then. So.
No, he wasn't complaining then.
Yeah.
And
he's going to be a bullpen piece, Griff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which leads me to the question of, if he's a bullpen piece and you go down to 4 starters, which to you of Bassett or Barrios would also go to the bullpen? Or would one of them have to be left off the playoff roster? I don't think that the bullpen has showed that they can bump either of those guys if they become a bullpen option for the playoffs.
I think Bassett is the one who gets removed. I think Barrios is the horse, so to speak. But I think, and the reason is, and I think this goes beyond this season. You're splitting hairs. I think you can make an argument for either guy. They're rather, like we've said, they're similar with what they've produced this year. They're not similar pitchers, but Barrios has a an opt out, and that matters. It kind of matters. Hey, if Bassett is clearly the better option, then you take him. That stuff doesn't matter. But when you're making decisions and you're dealing with kind of the same guy, the guy that might stick around is the guy I'm going to lean towards. You know?
Yeah. And also the fact that Bassett brings emotion to the hill, which in the 6th or 7th or 8th inning might be important in the postseason. And I just think he could carry that emotion and use that in a positive way to get through his 1 inning or whatever. And he might even be carrying a little resentment that he's not in the rotation. But screw it. He's like you said, he's a free agent at the end of the year. You're trying to win a World Series. You're trying to win a postseason series. And here's we've talked about this before, but this would be my 7-game series playoff rotation. Gausman, Scherzer, off day. Bieber, Barrios, Gausman, off day. And then you end game 6 and 7 with Scherzer and Bieber. I don't care how old they are, that Bieber hasn't been out, but if they're healthy, that would be who I want in a game 6 and 7 if it's going that far.
Yeah, I might lean to, depending. I mean, if Bieber's my one, I might want him where Gausman is and make sure I don't get to game 7. Bieber's 1, Bieber's 5, and then, you're still, if you get to game 7, I'm perfectly comfortable with Gausman throwing that game. But I'd hate to lose in game 5 or 6 and have Bieber pitch once if September flows and he's your guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's still a lot to be determined in the last month. But if Bieber looks what he's, if he's the guy I think he is, and he's the one for me. That's the difference. Other than that, I just move Bieber into Goss's role and Gausman into Bieber's role. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, the great thing about finishing top 2 in the American League in terms of division winner record is that you get to set up your rotation however
Any way you want.
You're not sort of fighting down to the final day, and then 2 days later you got to have a rotation that's maybe not optimal to what you would have had, like we're discussing right now. So
now, the real advantage, what we said off the top, is, to be honest with you, any of those guys is as a tremendous option. Most teams setting up their rotation for the playoffs is really trying to get that top end guy, as much, because the bottom end guys,
1 and 2. Yeah.
You get to game 6 and 7, you're probably in trouble. This team literally is not in trouble from a starting pitcher perspective. Any of the guys you're going to be happy to throw out there in a game 7. So that's
I just think it's pretty intimidating to an opponent and confidence building inside that Blue Jays clubhouse to look to game 6 and 7 and have those 2 guys lined up.
For sure. For sure. I mean, it's a distinct advantage for this team, and I'm not sure if anybody else can match that. Like I said, Seattle, clearly. But that's it in the American League.
Okay, here's the controversy. I've pushed it back in our discussion, but Jeff Hoffman and the bullpen. To me, there's been so much wasted conversation about who the closer is.
Oh, for sure.
It's Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard all of the same on-air controversies and discussions in social media from fans. I think I know how you feel about it, but can you explain the logic that you have for this?
Well, I just don't think you're in September, man. He's been your closer all year. He's not Jordan Romanoing it, you know what I mean, out in Philadelphia, so to speak. He's had what I would call an acceptable season. It's, you know what I mean? He hasn't blown the doors off. He's had bad moments for sure. It hasn't been his best, but he's clearly your best option down there. They do not have another option to close games. So if you take him out of the role, I think that shows a lot of panic too. You don't have anybody. They're just not there. Now, that goes back to what we talked about the deadline, and I've been steadfast on this. They didn't do enough for the bullpen, but yet I give them tremendous praise for the Bieber deal. And so far, it's gone exactly that way. They went B quality in the bullpen, and that's hurt them. But for Hoffman, if you don't show the absolute confidence in him, He's the only guy with that high-end stuff at that level. It's a bad message to the rest of the team, and I think it goes beyond Hoffman's performance and could leak into the rest of the club too. So he's your closer, man. It's ride or die time. I mean, he's really got to blow up like 3 or 4 times in a row for you just to go, wow, you know what I mean? Not you can't give him the ball, and that just hasn't happened all year. He's usually bounced back.
Yeah, and he wants the ball in those situations. It's not like he's looking over his shoulder hoping it's not him. He wants the ball. And if you take 7 or 8 terrible games that he's been out there for, and you take those earned runs that he's allowed and the bombs that he's given up in those games, like the rest of the totals are superior closer type totals.
Yeah, he's been lights out a lot. Like that's what you want from nobody else is going to go out there and show lights out stuff. You know what I mean? Like maybe flashes in the pan, but he's had just big blow ups, home runs. He's given up the home run ball.
The way I would tell is if it's getting to him is if at home games he said to Marnie Starkman or please don't turn the lights out and do that crap with me coming in. Like
let me sneak to the mound.
Yeah, let me sneak. I think that would be an indicator that he's feeling the heat.
Change his number.
Yeah, right. And the other thing, and you mentioned it, like who, if not him, who? I mean, you got Dominguez, Sir Anthony came over, Yariel and Brendan Little, all having trouble commanding the strike zone. Not even commanding the strike zone, but finding the strike zone.
Yeah.
And that is an issue if you're in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead and you walk the first hitter on 4 pitches.
Right.
You know, that's not a good thing. And I could see that with Brendan Little. First batter wants to take a strike, and so he's not swinging at that tease pitches that he throws. He's not swinging. He draws a walk, and all of a sudden, here's your new closer, and he's allowed the first guy to get on base, and who knows from that point. So
yeah.
And then the other guy, who I think at some point is going to be much better, and hopefully it's before the end of this year for the Blue Jays, is Louis Varland. You know, I think a Twin City raised guy who still had 5 years of control and sees everyone else in the bullpen traded is going, hey, maybe there's a really good role for me in my hometown, and then all of a sudden he gets a call. He's gone.
Crazy.
You know?
It's crazy. I don't understand that, but I mean,
so he's got a chance at some point.
But he hasn't pitched great.
Do it now.
Yeah, he should do it now. Yeah. He hasn't been. He looked. His first couple outings were really sharp, and then he hasn't been.
Yeah.
You know,
and they say the reports were that he was a bulldog. He was aggressive. He goes after it. That can work against you if that's your reputation. And you know, I remember the mad Hungarian Al Raboski.
Yes,
he had that shtick where he would go behind the mound and he'd work himself into a frenzy and then slam the ball into his glove, spin around, walk to the rubber, and throw a pitch. Like, I remember he did that against the Expos, and the first pitch was a loopy curveball after that whole routine. Well, Varland needs to reach that point where they're expecting heat and he throws something else, you know?
Yeah.
But like that Raboski thing, I still remember watching. I was like, holy shit, this guy's got it figured out, you know? He puts on the act and then he goes up and loops a curveball in for a strike.
Strike one. We need more of that in the game, that's for sure. I miss those characters.
Question for you: the last guy in the bullpen for the playoffs, for the postseason, would it be for you, Braden Fisher, Mason Fluharty, Tommy Nance, or Trey Savage? Like, would it be worth bringing him up sometime in the last 10 days of September to see what he can do in a 4-out role?
Well, I think that's the plan. I think that's why he's pitching in AAA. I think the plan is to have him ready for that role. And I think his next outing is going to be the big one. And if he continues to, if he throws well, uh, commands the zone a little better, I think that's probably what they're looking to do because he brings something to the table that they they really don't have a lot of, and those other guys aren't going to bring to the table, right? Um, for me, outside of that, it's probably Fluharty that comes up. He just gives you that extra lefty.
Yeah, but if you have Lauer out there as well, I guess three lefties.
Three is good to have though in the
Yeah, yeah,
postseason like that, and
especially
options.
one who can give you 2 innings or more in
Yeah,
Lauer.
yeah. It's just nice to have. I'd go with Fluharty if it's not Yusevich, but I'd like to see Trey. I think that's can be a real difference maker if it's a thing. So I think
Well,
his next outing's really something to watch in Buffalo.
yeah, Yusevich has made 3 starts
Three.
and thrown 11 innings, 7 hits, which is a good ratio. 6 runs, not that great, but he had one where his first one was always
Yeah.
tough at every new level.
Yeah.
But 11 innings, he's had 8 walks and 16 Ks. The 16 Ks is great in 11 innings. 8 walks, not so much.
Not so
But
much.
my theory is that robo-ump in the minor leagues might screw a guy who's coming over the top like that. And you can fool umpires with an angle that they haven't seen much of, coming from a location that and he might get some calls that
Yeah,
are out
and
of the
more
strike zone.
importantly, you fool hitters.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
strikeouts are the big.
More important than fooling umpires
Yeah.
is fooling hitters.
Yeah, that's right. So the 16 Ks is a really good sign at the AAA level.
Yeah,
So I think that's the plan. But for me, outside of that, it's Fluharty, just to
yeah,
give you some more options.
yeah. I mean, as you pointed out earlier in the discussion, the Blue Jays definitely in the rotation and the bullpen have more options than a lot of teams they'll be playing. The bullpen one is more out of necessity, like because these guys, too many of these guys, like there was a Yariel Rodriguez moment mid-season where it looked like he could be the next 8th inning guy, and they wouldn't miss Jimmy Garcia that much. What do you think happened there?
I think that's the story of Ariel Rodriguez, though. I mean, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. I think he has those moments where his stuff's electric, but it's just not consistent. And he doesn't command the zone with enough to be dangerous that way for opposing hitters. Um, so I think that's the bugaboo for Rodriguez. When he locks it down for a period of time, he looks as good as anybody.
Yeah.
But he can't do it. His command just never allowed him to take that next step and venture into potential 8th, 9th inning options. So you go, oh, he's a starter. Oh, he's better in relief. Oh, we don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
He ends up being an average major league pitcher with above average stuff.
Here's a question for you, then, and it goes back to your experience as a PR guy with the Jays. But interleague, the Jays enter the Brewers series 27-15 this year, and have always had a pretty good interleague record. But that was when there was a difference in NL ballparks. You would have to have your pitcher hit, and now there's a DH in both leagues, and they're still pitching well, or they're still playing well in interleague. Do you remember interleague when you were PR, and why, an explanation of why they could go into an NL ballpark where your pitcher's hitting, you lose a DH, and they could still compete hard?
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to think it was something we used in PR to highlight.
Yeah.
You
Oh, I
promoted, hey,
remember
look at
that.
this, look at this, look at this. I don't think it means anything. Interleague is not a thing. Like it's not a consistent thing. Like
Not
interleague
with
is
everybody DHing.
well, and now it's the same product. So
Yeah.
it's just, but in interleague itself isn't real. Like it's not like my interleague's different than your interleague. Then the Tigers are interleague, and you know what I mean. Like for you to do comparisons, it has to be the same product that everybody's playing. Interleague
Yeah.
just means, oh, those guys over there, we play 4 of them. You play the different 4. Well, it's different. It's different now. I mean, you play a lot more teams, but I just think they've been better than the other teams this year, and
Yeah. Well,
that's
that would explain your experience with it, because you're right. You would play a whole division, and if you're playing a shitty division,
Yeah. And
your
we call it
interleague is gonna,
interleague.
yeah, it's gonna
Like
look good.
us. Yeah.
Right.
It's just,
And I always laugh because they talk about the reason for Bud Selig instituting interleague plays so that fans in every city could get to see the
yeah,
stars, other stars live. And yet they insisted that the two teams in the same city would play each other 2 series instead of one, when they could just take the subway and go watch the other team anytime they wanted. It made no
right.
sense. His
Right.
original projection that, well, we want all fans to be able to see the stars in the other league, and then all the crap of having the White Sox playing the Cubs 2 series, Yankees playing the Mets 2 series.
And I get it when they started interleague play because it had never been done before. So there was a real, excitement for the Mets to play the Yankees, but that wears off quick. And that's the absurdity when they're talking about realignment. You can't have those teams in the same division. There'd be nothing
Yeah,
worse than
yeah,
playing the Yankees playing the Mets 15 times. Like, please.
yeah. 100% agree.
That's like little
Um,
league ball. You're playing your, next county over.
Yeah. Here's another question for you, and it's just in comparing the two leagues, and it seems that everyone has, like, if you're looking at power rankings, everyone's got four NL teams in the top five. It just seems that way. But when you examine the numbers more closely, you have the American League being 13 games above 500 in interleague play against the National League, which means there's more good American League teams than are being given credit for. It's just that the floor in the American League is much higher. You have Baltimore, you have even the Athletics playing better. You have teams at the bottom of their division that are less than 10 games under 500.
There's no Rockies in the American
There's
League.
no Rockies. There's a White Sox, but they are playing a little better, except
they've been
when
better.
they played the Yankees, and I was watching that game, and they were disgraced defensively.
Right.
But
I know.
so are the Yankees.
But the Yankees generally are. So yeah.
And the two best divisions are the NL Central at plus 31 to 500, and the AL East 32 games above 500. So to see the Brewers and the Blue Jays at the top of those two divisions, the two best divisions, and they're also at the top of their league, tells you something about that. This is not a mirage with the Blue Jays. This is not a mirage with the Brewers. They have earned it over the course of 130 some games. And so it's going to be a great series. And you may be listening to it, and the series may not have turned out. The series may have been played, and you may not agree with what we're saying right now, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is what you play for, right? You get to September, and you want to see the big boys go head to head. I mean, it's appointment television at this point.
So the next topic is AL MVP, and I'm not talking Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh, because most people are saying those are going to be 1-2, 2-1, depending on how you're going to vote with those two guys. But who would fill out your top five of AL MVP? I mean, you've got Witt Jr., Skubal, Jose Ramirez, Bregman, Gleyber Torres, Riley Green. But where should the top Blue Jays, and who should the top Blue Jays, and would there be one in the top five if you had a ballot? Would there be a Blue Jay in the top five?
Well, I think you have to give George Springer his due, don't you? I think he's having the best year of his career, Griff. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
But he's definitely having the best year of his career. So for me, I think he has to get consideration. Um, you know, he's at the top of the leaderboard in any important offensive category, and he's still giving you enough defensively. He's not hurting you by any means out there. So I mean, for me, Springer's probably the only Blue Jay that I think would probably find their way into the conversation at this point. Um, you know, Scooble's going to get some votes as well. Just, I think it should be go to a position player, in my personal opinion. Um, I think you have a hitter's award and a pitcher's award.
Yeah.
Not everybody agrees with that. And I guess certain years, if it's just a distinct, no doubt performance, you might consider throwing an MVP to a pitcher, but that's not this year by any means. So for me, Springer's probably the only look. I think those other guys you mentioned are probably in there, the Bobby Witts. But again, we're talking about 3 through 5. Who you got in there?
Well, I would have to say, I think you've convinced me on Springer, but oddly, I think that if Springer was top 5, and he's not going to be top 2, he'd probably be 4 or 5 if he is in there. I think that Springer could be top 5 in AL MVP, and Alejandro Kirk could win the Blue Jays Player of the Year. I mean, it would be odd, but people who watch the Blue Jays every day might appreciate the fact of him sort of being the orchestra leader of the starting rotation, Alejandro, being able to block, being able to hit 300, driving in big runs, being the best two-strike hitter in all of baseball. But voters for the AL MVP don't see all that.
No, actually, I agree with you, and I might have maybe he should get consideration more for a top 5 role. I mean, I have a lot of leeway for catchers, just how difficult it is to play the position and swing the bat. It's just the most demanding position. So I think you have to elevate the fact that he's done what he's done offensively is kind of it's hard to fathom, like that you can just keep it up. Like, so yeah, I'm in agreement with you. And that's why for me, Raleigh at this point is my choice over Judge going into the last month of the season. I think there's that extra added difficulty with catching, handling a pitching staff, the physical toll it takes on you. That's why catchers don't hit, Griff, these days.
Yeah, for sure. I would take Bobby Witt Jr. because I think might be the most talented player in the league, and his team is hanging in, but they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're hanging in. So I put a lot of credit to him. I would also exclude Jose Ramirez because he's done this before, and his team now is fading. I think they're at 500 or under 500. But yeah, he's a great player, but MVP to me means that you help your team win. The guy that would sneak in for me is Bregman, because Bregman's presence allowed them to trade Devers, and all of a sudden, since trading Rafael Devers, they've been able to insert some of their great young talent into the lineup, and people have stepped up. And so in terms of meaning the most to your team, and they've bounced back and they're threatening to win the division. So to me, he might even be third after Raleigh and Judge to me.
Yeah, I don't put as much weight on how the team does. I think those things to me are more out of your control.
Call it Player of the Year then. Don't call it MVP.
Well, I guess. Sure. I think the description, fair enough. I think the description is where the issue lies. I still think the best player is the most valuable player. It's not his fault the rest of the team stinks. That's why I think a guy like Nick Kurtz is going to get consideration. You know what I mean? He's
I forgot about
player,
him,
man.
Yeah.
I mean,
and his athletics are now. I mean, they got a chance to finish out of the basement there.
Right, but I mean, they've never threatened anybody for anything serious. So I mean, in your world, you don't get a sniff. You know what I mean?
Right. We've all seen teams that turn it on, especially when it was 40 expanding rosters to 40 in September. You'd see teams trying to win so they could sell tickets the next year, and they're playing against a AAA team of a team that's already out of it and doesn't care, or a team that's already clinched, and now they're playing all their kids. So, but you don't see that with only one position player and
much better
being
now.
at it now. Yeah,
much better. So you weren't a fan of Andre Dawson winning back in the day?
No, he won in '89. They won the division.
No, with the Cubbies, right? When they finished last.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't finish last, did they?
Yeah, they finished last.
Oh, yeah. I was a PR guy. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it at that point. But he's my man. Don't denigrate.
That's what I was gonna
Dawson.
say. I had to throw that one out at you. Like,
Yeah,
wait a
thanks a
minute,
lot.
wait a minute.
Now
You got to make exceptions here and there.
You've discombobulated me, and I've lost my train of agenda for the rest of this. We might wrap it up in a hurry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I throw the Andre Dawson at you. It's not good.
The news. Let's look at the news. Cito Gaston, Dusty Baker, Jerry Manuel, Willie Randolph, Hall of Game, Negro Leagues. Bob Kendrick announced that. Cito going into that Hall of Fame. I mean, it seems like a gimme. What do you worked with him? What do you see as his greatest attribute? And do you think it influenced other teams to go, hey, African-American guy can manage, he can win? What do you think his contribution was to the effort?
Oh, I think it's so important, and for some reason, Cito's just never gotten his due. In my opinion, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame for the things you just mentioned. His best attribute, and I've said this before, when I was a young wisecracking fellow who thought he knew everything, Cito was easy to criticize because he wasn't the most analytical manager. He wasn't gonna, Buck Showalter you to death with every perfect advantage of lefty-righty splits. But what he did better than anybody, which is exactly what the job of manager does, is manage people. When I worked with him, I was blown away. His knowledge about how to play the game was remarkable. And I think that sometimes is missing a little bit. Like just the finer details of hitting, pitching, even defense, how to think the game, what to look for, to get yourself a little personal edge. So any player loved that. They loved what Cito gave them and how to make themselves better rather than pigeonholing a player into a role. Well, you don't hit righties or you don't hit lefties, so we'll never put you in that position. And I just think he got the most out of people and put them in. And, I'm going to say something to take, the anti Andre Dawson comment right now. That's kind of what you do too, Griff. I've experienced that with you as a manager. You need to get people to be at their best. And Cito was the master. And as a fan who just watches, oh, what's that guy doing? Not pinch hitting or pinch hitting that guy. What a silly move or non-move. Like, no. He always had the bigger picture in mind. And I've told you this story before. He talked about a game early in April or May, and Candy Maldonado was at the plate, and it was a tough righty in a key moment late in the game, and he didn't pitch hit for him, and he got criticized for it. And he just said, he goes, I told Candy that he's going to have to do this, and I'm going to need him in September to do this. And I wanted to show him that I believed in him, and he's not going to get off the hook. He's going to have to be in a big moment that he's not comfortable with when the game's on the line, when our season's on the line. And he showed faith in him, and Candy loved that. And you can just look at the performances of guys like Candy Maldonado late in big games and those runs. And that's showing confidence in people that, they've got to be capable. But I was kind of, I was mesmerized working with Cito, just the things that I learned about baseball, talking with Cito. He's my favorite manager, and that's saying a lot because I work with the great John Gibbons. So
yeah,
and it was just a lesson in life, a lesson in the game of baseball every day, and you were a better man by spending time with Cito Gaston. I can't say enough about Cito. So I don't know what your experience has been like, but I'm so happy he got this honor. So happy.
I agree 100%. And when I was still a writer or an active writer, I'm BBWA member still and still have votes, but there was never a vote for. It was a Veterans Committee vote, and to me, Cito should have been put in by now by the Veterans Committee, but hasn't. And I would always campaign at the winter meetings that he should, but he definitely has done so much for the African-American candidates, for Jerry Manuel, who's also going in, but followed him. I think Don Baylor, and Felipe Alou did more for minority candidates than anyone, because they were sort of, Frank Robinson was a player manager and he was the first, but I don't think that he had the same influence. I think people were going, oh, here's a superstar and he's managing a bad team and pinch hitting himself and whatever. But Cito won 2 World Series. And that when I was managing your Niagara Ironbacks, I wore number 43 because felt like I had a little bit of Cito in the way I handle players, and you just acknowledge that. Yeah,
I agree.
So my biggest fear over June and July was that Cito would call and say, "Could you ask him to take my number off, please?"
I didn't give him permission
because we weren't doing that well, but we finished strong, and
we did.
And that's part of what Cito would have done. Now I have a question about: do you think, and this is my theory about Cito's popularity or the impression he gave to Blue Jays fans, I think that the way television handles baseball now, and I have nothing but respect for the new camera angles, for the fact that there's a guy running around the field with a camera on his shoulder.
I hate that one.
I hate that one, or that he even goes in the dugout and follows a home run guys. Just stay out of the dugout.
Agreed.
But the fact is, I think if Cito had today's coverage on television, that it would have showed him more often interacting with his hitters, like you said. It would have showed him actually doing. To me, from a distance, it always seemed like the Cito shots were after the other team hit a home run and he's sitting in the dugout with his arms crossed in the corner.
With his hands down his pants.
Yeah.
Famous for that one. Front of the pants.
But I think that the coverage as it is today on television would have helped Cito's image.
Yeah, sure, because you would have seen more of Cito, and he wasn't just, he wasn't just sitting there all the time. Like, that's right. Cito was, he, like I said, he was a people guy. He was a people person. And he made his teams better. He just made his teams. He brought the most out of his players. Like I said, he's not your, bunt, grinder, run, outthink every single move guy. My guys are going to be in the best spot to be their best selves, and that was his approach, and that's what he did.
Well, that's the difference between Cito and me. I wanted to insert myself into the game.
Yeah, he had that running game,
but then realized that nobody could run. So.
But I don't know if you realized it though.
Yeah, you're right. I had to explain my ulterior motives, my deep reasons for doing things to you. Otherwise, you would have fired me a long time before that.
I think so, yeah. But yeah.
Now, Kyle Schwarber goes 0 for 20 and then hits 4 home runs on Thursday. Like, I'm sure there were a lot of fans going, he needs time off, bench him. And now he hits 4 home runs. And this guy is unbelievable as a DH. I think he's going to be a free agent. What do you say that his average annual value of a new contract would be? I would assume only 3 years, maybe. But do you think it could be as much as $40 million a year?
No. Well, who am I to say? Somebody might pay that, right? I wouldn't, but yeah, 3 years max.
I think he's late 30s right now, isn't he?
Yeah, like you're really
37 maybe.
You're really getting to that area where it can go bad in a hurry. You know what I mean? And you're getting the low average with the low home run totals at some point. I'd be frightened to do that. Now it's a short-term deal, but yeah, maybe somebody does do it. I wouldn't do that, but I could see how it could get done.
I mean, yeah, he probably will get a contract from Dave Dombrowski, approaching that, because it would be a shame to see the Phillies lose a talent like that for the final 3 years of his career.
Yeah, and it's probably the most likely scenario, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if he isn't the poster boy for the modern day major league player, right?
Yeah, modern day. But I remember Ned Coletti, who was a PR guy with the Cubs, and in fact, he won the Robert O. Fischel Award the year before I did. So I should have been following him a year behind.
Yes.
Only he went on to be an assistant GM and then
Yeah,
the
and a
GM
GM.
of
Yes.
GM of the Dodgers.
Yes.
And meanwhile, I was left in his jet stream or whatever. But he was put in charge as the assistant GM of the Giants of examining Barry Bonds and what his last contract should be at 39 years old. And he did a whole study of 40-year-olds and the diminishing production. And so he pretty much got overruled because they did sign Bonds, and he had some of his best years, but we know why he had some of his best years at 40 plus.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. And you said modern ball player, modern reality. Well, modern reality post 2004. And so, I mean, this guy, Schwarber, is having a career year in terms of power, but he's still a DH. And I agree that might cut into his, he'll get whatever. I think he'll favor the Phillies and he'll get near the top of the market, but I don't think it'll set any records because he wants to be where he is. He's comfortable and he's a DH.
Yeah. And he's playing in a pretty decent park for him too.
Yeah, absolutely. There are others like that right now, but Cincinnati's ballpark and whatever. But
Yankee Stadium might be a good spot.
Yeah. Well, I refuse to acknowledge Yankee Stadium as a major league ballpark, except for its history. And when I walk in there, my heart starts to beat a little faster.
I echo all those sentiments. I agree.
We missed out congratulating Owen Casey the week that so we will not miss out on Jonah Tong. Coming up to start for the Mets, a Markham kid,
former Toronto Met.
Yeah. So congratulations to him and the Toronto Mets and to everyone who got him to that level. I'm sure his parents deserve congratulations, as we both know about bringing up players and how much effort it takes to keep them going. So last item, and it's now that time of year, it's getting a little cooler outside. I need you to give me, starting next week, Exit Philosophy is going to have an NFL segment, top 5
right.
picks. We did it last year.
We made people money last year, Griff.
Yeah, we did. We did. And especially finishing strong. But
yes.
So in a week before the schedule starts, let's have you go down the prospects of the Buffalo Bills, because that's your team. And what's your outlook for them this year? I mean, they still have the greatest quarterback, to me, the greatest athletic quarterback in the NFL. So what's your view on the rest of it?
Obviously, I think they're going to be fine as long as Josh remains upright, which he would hope would do. And I think their path to the division seems reasonably safe. But I'm not so sure they are set up for the big run. You know what I mean? They've got some holes that have become apparent that were there last year in their secondary. Their safety room is weak at best. They've brought back Trey White as one of the corners, which is not a good thing if he's starting for you. So, I mean, they've got the young rookie corner that got hurt early in camp who by all accounts looks like he might be the real deal, but it hasn't played at all. And I know with McDermott, if you're not getting the reps early, it's going to be a while before you find your way. Like, he's a mid-season guy, I think, by the time there are some concerns for sure, and their wide receiver room still isn't as good as you want it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about the wide receivers, because they've gone through some pretty good receivers over the last 2 or 3 years. And the depth 2 years ago was really good, and they lost, I think, both those lead guys. So how have they filled in for that?
Well, you can't argue with their success. They scored the most points in the league last year. So they spread the ball around to everybody, but that's Josh. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get him a number one. You know, it's you still because in crunch time, you need to that guy needs to show up where you know it doesn't matter. Nobody can stop him. And the Bills don't have that guy as a weapon because the guy that they have is Josh. And you end up running the ball, running it with Josh, and Josh making big plays. And so I wish they would have added another target for them that matters. And they're still out bargain binning receivers in the offense, you know. So they're going to be good. Like, let's not kid ourselves. They're the best in the division, and they should be battling for the number one seed just by virtue of the weak schedule. And you know, it's going to be them, Kansas City, Baltimore, and then things change. People, the injuries can, in that league, you never know. But I mean, I'm excited to see football, and I'm excited to watch them play. They're a good football team. So, I mean, I remember the years of them being a very bad football team for a long time. So, I mean, these are all minor complaints in the grand scheme of things. But I'd like to see them take advantage of the Josh Allen at his peak days as much as we can to see if they can get us a Super Bowl finally. So,
well, my gauge with the Bills last year was. Especially late in the season. Well, only late in the season. In the last 3 games, when I was watching on TV, the more downs that DeMar Hamlin played defensively,
right.
I thought the less chance they had of winning because, you know, it's just embarrassing at times to have him out there and expect to win a championship. I'm not sure whether he made the team, maybe special teams this year, but yeah, they need to upgrade defensively in the backfield, safeties. So if they do that, I like them a lot. But
and the one thing they've always been missing is an edge rusher. They just in crunch time, they don't have a guy that can go get the quarterback. Like they've kind of, you know, Greg Russo's been their guy, but with all due respect, he's an average defensive end. He's just never taken that step. When you need to shut him down in big moments, you do. So the Mahomes of the world aren't running around. Yeah, they have time to throw the football again. So that's a big deal. They've always missed that big edge rusher. So I don't see him there now. So
my favorite play that the Bills had last year was that reception flip back to Josh Allen as he went around the edge.
Murray Cooper,
and that was totally not. I mean, it wasn't a play that they drew up. It was just
playground football. Yeah, that was a highlight.
They're definitely a team worth watching. I'm not sure if you're a fan of the new stadium opening up or you like the old one, but you know, this is their last.
I'm not a fan of where they put it.
Yeah,
it should be downtown.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, that's
Park. What the hell?
Rather than being able to see construction from the current way.
Silly. Yeah. Hey, let's keep it in the snow belt.
Right. Yeah, and we know about that snow belt.
Yeah,
I almost died in that snow belt.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that wraps up, and I'm looking forward to our helping our listeners make money back, and like. With that money you win, maybe you can subscribe to griffsthepitch.com and get episodes of Exit Philosophy as well. That would help us out. And but in the meantime, we will put our picks together for the week 1 of the NFL. Plus, you and I are head to head in a team draft coming up this weekend. So. I'm not gonna give you any clues as to the direction I'm heading, but I think I beat you
cards close to the vest, as I say.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we appreciate everybody listening to Exit Philosophy, and we look forward to joining you again next week. And in the meantime, the Jays have some big series coming up. I think they've got 17 of 28 games against teams above 500 the rest of the way. So it's not an easy schedule.
This is the stretch.
We will keep our eyes on it and report back to you next week about how smart or how dumb we have been about the Jays in their season. But appreciate you listening and watching, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks, Mal.
Thank you.